Hi, this is Jelly, your favorite magical goo, and this is my con review for Scarefest 2018 held in Lexington, Kentucky. First, let's talk about the venue. The venue was the Lexington Center, and it was a pretty awesome venue. First of all, free parking, and it wasn't a far walk from the parking lot to the actual convention space. It was also a very well organized and sized venue for this particular convention. One of the best things about the venue is that there wasn't a lot of crowding. However, I do worry that if this convention grows any larger, that the venue space won't be able to hold the crowd within the slightly narrow hallways that go from the panel rooms to the vendor hall. I would also like to give a special shout out to the staff and the attendees of this con. A friendly staff makes a convention all the more enjoyable, and I have honestly never interacted with a more friendly and helpful staff. The staff were more than eager to help and answer questions. I also think my fellow attendees are worth noting. Everyone we interacted with was kind and polite and just happy to be at the convention. The main hall had photo sets depicting various horror scenes, so you could snag some fun and unique photos. Next, let's talk about the cosplay. A big reason I go to conventions is to see unique and fun cosplays. I walked into Scarefest expecting a bunch of your typical slasher horror movie costumes, and I was really excited to see those. However, I was pleasantly surprised to see a lot of cosplays not from horror films. The one that stood out the most to me was a Mercy from Overwatch. She was wearing the witch skin, so it still fit to the theme. I was very excited to see her. Next, let's talk about the guest lineup. We actually decided to go to this convention because of the guest lineup. In particular, we went to Scarefest to see Joe Bob Briggs, a horror movie host, Jeffrey Combs, a genre actor most known for Reanimator, and Elvira, an iconic movie horror host. I really give Scarefest a lot of kudos for how they set up their guests. They were all lined up in the vendor hall when they weren't at panels or taking a break, and you could walk up, meet them, and get your stuff signed. I've been to other conventions where guests have only been out for maybe an hour or two, and getting in line to meet them was almost like the Hunger Games. But it wasn't like that here. We had a short wait for every single one of the guests, and security was still around to make sure people didn't get out of line. Next, I want to talk about the panels. I loved the way that this con had all of the panels in one hallway. This made finding all the panels very easy. We attended the Q&A panels of Joe Bob Briggs and Jeffrey Combs. My personal favorite panel was Bad Tarot Reading with Wes Forsyth. It was pretty funny, but also very insightful in a way, and I found it very entertaining. My only complaint would be that while there was a schedule with the title, time, and place of each panel, there wasn't a description, so we walked into several panels blind, and I think we might not have gone to them otherwise. It would have been nice to have a description or a short 2 to 3 sentence summary of what we could expect. But overall, the panels offered were a unique variety, and there's something for every type of horror fan. Lastly, I want to talk about the vendor hall. This was my favorite part of the convention. The vendor hall was large and featured a bunch of unique, independent artists. I really didn't see a lot of resale distributors. Honestly, it was very difficult to figure out where I was going to spend my money. The vendor hall also wasn't crowded. There was plenty of space to walk around and enjoy shopping. Another cool thing about the vendor hall, it was where not only the guests were, but you could also do unique things like get tattoos, get a psychic reading, and meet local ghost hunters and paranormal investigators. So you could kind of kill all of your activity birds in one stone by walking into the vendor hall. One of my favorite booths was Kenny's Mountain Taxidermy and Curiosities. I was actually lucky enough to get an interview with him, so take a listen.
Yeah, I don't know, I was always fascinated by it when I was a kid, and I dabbled around with dead animals and stuff like that. And so when the time came, I just, put in my apprenticeship and put in the process and did it,
How long is an apprenticeship to be a taxidermist?
I don't know how long they normally take. It took me 4 years because I had kids and I had to travel a lot back and forth to Alabama to do it. So.
All right, and where do you find your specimens?
I get them from roadkill, pet stores, breeders, anywhere where they die naturally.
And do you have a favorite specimen here today that you would like to showcase for us?
If I did, it would be one of these large squids, like that big tall squid over there in the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you enjoy him so much?
It's just because they're so big.
They're big?
Yeah.
Was there any particular challenges with taxiderming something that large?
No, it's not. I've done stuff as big as, a fetal horse. Yeah. So it's the size really doesn't matter. It's just the complexity of the animal. They're pretty good. I mean, they're like elite predators, that type of thing. I like to do the chickens, like that rooster up there. That's a fun one to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another added benefit and bonus to this convention is the food. You could not only get your typical food like Arby's and Subway within the main venue hall, but you could go into the vendor hall and grab snacks like pizza or pretzels. But then outside of the venue were several local food trucks, and the pad thai was absolutely amazing. The only other small negative thing I can think to say about this convention is there wasn't much to do after paying your admission price that didn't require extra money. You could go to panels, and there were horror movies being shown, but there was only one horror film being shown at a time. But this is a small complaint. The vendor hall was so big and so much fun, it took up hours of our day in between panels. Okay, let's talk about the pros and cons of this convention as a wrap up. First, the pros. The layout of the convention space, which was very well organized, the free parking with easy access to the venue, the interactive decorations where you can get fun and unique photos, the extremely helpful and friendly staff, the pretty chill attendees, the wide variety of cosplays, the all-star lineup of guests that attracted us to the convention in the first place, the organization of these guest signings, the diverse and fun panels with something for everyone, a vendor hall full of unique and independent artists, and plenty of food options. Okay, and let's talk about the very few cons of Scarefest. First is potential crowding issues if the convention continues to grow. Next is the lack of panel descriptions, so you really didn't know what you were walking into. And lastly, not many extra activities with admission price outside of the panels and vendor hall. Overall, Scarefest gets a rating of 4.5 out of 5 sparkles. I know this is a convention we will consider attending again in the future, especially if the guests continue to be as great as they are. I highly, highly recommend this convention to anyone who enjoys horror and paranormal things. I would like to thank all of you for watching my con review, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone!